Welcome to Giving You More Than Numbers, CASS's business support podcast, your go-to resource for practical business advice and expert insights.
So we've spoken now about quite a lot about how we get paid. Can we think about and help the viewer and listener look at how we can manage the payment of our expenses? So that might just be through Xero or some of the tools that integrate with Xero that help us capture and manage cash flow. And then we'll talk about some tips that we can do around our own spending to improve cash flow.
Okay, I'll go first on that.
Yeah,
okay. So we tried to keep the whole workflow within Xero. There are other tools available in the marketplace. But to start it all off, really, we have a product called HubDoc that connects up to Xero. HubDoc allows you to capture invoices and receipts on the go. The idea is just that you're not losing documents, and to capture it, get it into Xero and let the technology, the OCR technology, actually read the content of that document and get it into Xero, and so that you're tracking it and taking account for it, I suppose, really. So once the documents are in, it'll be able to track what their due dates are, the values, etc., and that will then follow on to things like analytics, so you can then start to forecast when you are supposed to pay those bills. To assist that, we have Xero the ability to pay bills directly from Xero using a third-party tool called Cresco. Most of our products include the option to do free payments within Xero, a couple of months. I think it's 5 in Grow, 10 in Comprehensive, and 15 in Ultimate. So you're allowed to make payments directly from Xero free of charge. You can do individual ones, you can do batch payments, but the idea is we're just trying to make it a two-way thing. So not only do we want you to get paid quicker, but make this a fair thing and pay your bills at the same time.
Fabulous. And I think we talk about, so that's, if you like, managing our day-to-day bills. Let's just think about those businesses that are slightly bigger that might be out and about on the road.
That's always a nightmare.
How can we help those businesses capture those tools beyond a HubDoc, which is an evolving tool? I think that's probably the right phrase. But Xero has a really clever feature built in that actually allows us to track individual expenses that people are incurring. And then somebody from a business owner perspective has the ability to go, yes, we'll pay that. Or actually, no, you're not having that Walt Disney shop purchase. Or as we saw yesterday, someone's been into Birmingham to the Disney store and tried to say that was a gift for a client. The fact it was his daughter's birthday is another conversation entirely. But yeah, I think it's that. How can we help business owners control and capture that ancillary spend, I think is the phrase, rather than just bills.
We were very creative when we looked at that space. So we got part of our product called Xero Expenses. So Xero Expenses does exactly what you
was your focus group for that now?
It took us a while. But it's exactly for what you've mentioned, Paul, really. So recording and capturing expenses on the go. If it's just a business owner point of view, great. It just allows you to record it. If you have staff, even better, so you can track, approve, do things like mileage as well. But that's exactly what that's for. Allows you to monitor it, and so that we're spending in the right places, I suppose, really.
Brilliant. So we have those, but then let's just think about, we've got ourselves into a little bit of a cash flow challenge. We haven't quite enacted everything that we need to do from a getting paid perspective. So I've got to pay my suppliers, are there any tips and tricks that we potentially have got to just help us extend those payment terms, other than just a nice phone call to our supplier asking for time to pay?
Asking for a copy of the invoice, perhaps.
No, let's assume that we're wanting to be above board, but actually are there things we can manage internally, or some clever tips and tricks that allow us to navigate some shortfalls, let's call it?
Are we talking about using external funding to help us do that? Or
so we're just, if you like, we're just going to put out there some of the tips and tricks that in our profession we have either seen happen or that we advise people explore, just to help navigate those short-term cash flow challenges.
Yeah. I mean, there are various things that you can use. If you use a credit card and swipe things like that, then your credit card provider will allow you to have an extension of funds in advance, and that ties in with your Xero or your other platform. Short-term lending is always expensive, but if you have to use it, it has to be the case that it has to be used. It's far better to have managed things so that you're not facing that immediate requirement.
I think you're right. But we want to try and be as proactive as we can and not get stuck into those. So we know what we're going to do. One of the things that, and I think you touched on it, but I want to kind of emphasize, we try and encourage clients where they've got, I'm going to call it cash upfront spending to service a job, but they're not going to be paid for 14, 28 days. Yeah. We try and encourage them to actually move their spending from a debit card, which is instant spend and instantly out your bank, onto a credit card. Because it delays that payment term either beyond when you get paid or at least shortens the gap. But we always caveat, if you're going to do that, pay that card off in full and its due date. But that massively helps with that cash flow where you are businesses that have to go and buy. And I'm probably thinking more about trades that have to go to
the fix and all of that.
Exactly. And if you're not big enough or established enough to have an account, there's always that shortfall. So again, that's just a little tip for us.
You do have to be careful though, because that can get out of control. We've seen that get out of control on many occasions.
Yeah. But it's again, it's just trying to think about how can we help in the short term. It isn't a long-term solution. And I think that's really, I think we've already all intimated that it's about, can I get paid quicker? But where we can't get paid quicker, how can we just help mitigate some of those cash challenges? Ask them if they take Klarna. There's a quick win.
Even actually speak to your advisor.
Yeah, that's it. Speak to your trusted Louise.
Louise.
and so we're now getting everything into Xero. We've now implemented to be paid via all of the pay now methods, and we know what we're trying to do around payments. How can we then use the visibility of bills and expenses that are due to be paid out of Xero to improve decision making? So how can we now use Xero to help us understand when we can pay and how we can pay?
So one thing I saw yesterday, sorry, Louise, is we Xero made an acquisition just before Christmas for a product called Sift, which is in our industry, it's quite a very successful forecasting and cash flow tool. So we're heavily investing in this space because we really believe it's how we can help small, medium-sized businesses in the UK. But one particular tool that's within there is there's a cash manager, and you can actually see it by calendar view. And I've never seen anything like that before, and I thought it was fantastic. So tools like that, I feel, be fantastic. Or you could almost pinpoint a day that you need to make that investment, or you need to do an outlay for something. That's just a small tip from me.
Yeah.
Well, I always think your finance, the figures tell you everything, and it's a bit like driving a car. Your historic data is like looking in the rearview mirror where you've been, but actually you can use your figures to work out where you want to go to. So suddenly the windscreen has become clearer, and you can using that data, you can set your plan for where you want to take your business.
Yeah, I think all of that is absolutely valued, and potentially just a little tip from us is we would always look at, when it comes to making those, I'm going to call them bill payments rather than generic payments, because like we intimated at the very early start, we always want to pay staff. We want to pay the staff first, not necessarily ourselves, but we want to pay our staff. So we would always look at, very, very simply, what's in the bank, add in what I know I can hang my hat on is going to be paid, and then take off what I know I can't get away without paying. And it's just that little bit. There's 3, and they're all on the dashboard. Bank balance, invoices due, and bills I've got to pay. All 3 of them. Quick bit of maths. Now, whilst that's not a rocket science, it's not an exact science, because we may still have payroll commitments to meet, government commitments to meet. It's that ability using those three to go, okay, I'm okay. My cash is okay. But we get a little bit technical and we can't get away from it for this. If you run your balance sheet report out of Xero, now, whilst it's loads of numbers on a page, I would always point you to 3 lines. Assets, as in current assets, and it clearly says, because that's what I can quickly turn into cash.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Current liabilities, because that's what I've got in the immediate time frame. And then the very bottom number, the equity that's still available, because that takes into account of your long term. So when it comes to those strategic decisions, should I buy? Can I buy? When can I buy? Those 3 lines give you a really good insight into, is it the right time to do it? So those, I think, all help with that decision making. So we spent the last hour or so just talking about all of the bits that we can do to improve cash flow. But if you've not caught those 3 previous podcasts, I think if we round it all out and pitch some really simple roundups, I think actually we should leave the viewer and listener with lots of things to go away and either implement or challenge their current advisors to help them put into action. Let's go right back to the start. What are the easy wins for a business looking to improve cash flow in the short term? So let's not think about what they're going to do in 6 months' time. What would we suggest they do to improve cash flow now and for the next month or 2?
They've definitely got to automate their invoicing.
Okay.
That's where it starts, with the automation of invoicing, and couple that with automating how those invoices are then paid.
Yes.
By the 80-20 rule.
Yeah. So if we can get 80% of our invoices paid automatically, so that's your GoCardless or your Cresco, and actually those that won't, the direct debit, whether it's a fixed amount or even variables, can we then talk about pushing them to please pay now, please pay now. And can we make that button even bigger?
With arrows.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, anything sort of around that whole cash flow?
Complete agreement with Louise. I just say all about the payments, get them turned on, the free to set up, they're easy to set up, and for every time you raise an invoice or speak to a customer, you can choose how you get paid. Just get it set up straight away.
Yeah. No excuses to not. And I think gone are the days of, I didn't know I can do that, or I haven't got a card machine. I think it's this embrace that it is all within one space now.
Setting the templates up seems scary, but it's the best hour I spent.
Yeah. I mean, we've done it where we've customized the Xero ones, but we've actually taken those templates outside of Xero. And I'm going to name drop in I suppose a bad way. They've moved from Sage. They love the Sage template. So we've taken the Xero template outside, converted it to look identical to their Sage invoice for whatever reasons we do not know, and then imported that back in. So actually from a customer's perspective, nothing has changed apart from you've now got pay now buttons, pay by this, Klarna. We've got all of those now in. And I think the other win for me would be, if you're not tied into contracts, is look at your payment terms that you are offering to customers. Because if we're doing 30 days to customers but 30 days to suppliers, you're the wrong. You're actually giving yourself a bit of pressure, because your supplier is not going to say, "Oh, I'll wait for you till your customer's paid." So if we can pivot that and maybe extend supplier payment terms by even a few days or a week, and bring and rein our customer payment terms in. And even if you can't move your existing client bank, when you secure new clients, their payment terms become shorter. So at least, and those are quick wins. And a new customer does not know what your payment terms would be or ordinarily.
You can get your customers on a recurring monthly fee. That's by far
it is, and that's just industry specific, isn't it? Your landscape gardener just wants to pay, and he don't care how he gets paid, but we want to get that kind of instant turnaround. We touched on an app stack earlier, and we've got loads. They're still part of an app stack, but they're inside Xero's own direct ecosystem of apps.
Yeah.
But actually, if those aren't right for you, what other sort of app integrations can really add value, both on the invoicing customer side, but potentially managing those expenses on the outward track.
Yeah. So we have a app store, similar to what you'd experience with like Apple or Android app store. It grows daily. So we have almost 1,200 apps in there now. And there's a lot. It's overwhelming. But what I would say is definitely explore it, because they are all categorized by either a function or an industry. So you'd be very interested for business owners to go and search by their industry and see what else can support them as well as Xero. So there's all sorts there to go at. But in terms of what we're talking about today, there's a lot. So we do offer the majority of what you'll need on Xero itself, but sometimes you might need a bit more. Yeah. A bit more complexity, a bit more industry specific, etc. But yeah, there's tons. And I can't really probably name drop.
No, you can't. But I think if we pick up one, I'm just going to pick up one app that we work with our clients primarily, and it's a piece of software called Chaser. Yeah. So there's a plug for Chaser. And while Xero has automatic invoice reminders that you can configure, and again, if you're not using them, have a look at using them. You can have up to 5 chasers. We always turn the first one into a reminder that your invoice is due in 5 days. And then we have 4 that chase with slightly different text that get increasingly severe, to the point of the last one being, please pay us or you're going legal, or we're going legal. But Chaser actually takes that an extra layer further, and with the advent of AI, starts to make it a little bit more closely aligned to human intervention.
It's a credit controller, isn't it?
It is in essence. So it's just another way of embracing a tool that integrates seamlessly with Xero. So if you paid an invoice off in Xero, it disappears out of Chaser. And that's where Xero is really at the forefront of working with other apps, because it's not precious about sharing its back engine with other tools, as long as they add value to the user. So yeah, that ability with the app stack, I think it is. Go and explore. There are not millions, but there are thousands out there that ultimately will find something that either allows you to do invoicing if you're a project manager, where Xero maybe doesn't fit all of the bits you need, but it will do the invoicing for you and automate that piece down to Xero. So yeah, don't be frightened if you think Xero might not be right for you. There will be a tool that will talk to Xero to give you the front end controls that you need, but Xero with its functionality will give you all of the output around cash management and all of those bits. And I think just to kind of round out those practical bits of advice, and we'll let this roll as long as we need to. But what's the very first thing you would ask a client to consider when they have cash flow challenges? So we've just pivoted slightly from the pre-warned question to something that, because we've covered off the what would we automate first. So let's just...
The earlier you seek advice, the better.
Yeah.
It's confidential. Talk to your professional, trusted advisor. We've been there, we've done that, we've probably got the t-shirt. We know it's difficult to accept, first of all, but there's always a solution if there's enough time to find it.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the keys, is don't try and bury your head in the sand until it's a little bit too late.
Yeah. I mean, I took a phone call this morning from somebody who's been locked out of premises because a bill hadn't been paid. And I'm running around like a headless chicken now for them, sorting out how to get them back in. Yeah. That could have been dealt with a lot easier 3 weeks ago.
Head in the sand scenario. Paul, is there anything?
Oh, wow, I don't get to experience things like that day to day, unfortunately.
You don't get phone calls that I regularly
Maybe
get
personally, but to that level, unfortunately, I don't get to speak to businesses that close. But I'd say if you have an outstanding debtor ledger and there is a cash flow scenario in place, even if it is within those terms, there's no harm in sending out a reminder with a pay now button, because it might be in front of their computer right now, prepared to pay that bill for you.
Absolutely. I think the pay now is the absolute the minimum we should now be expecting.
Yeah.
I think you can also use it to pre-warn yourself for potential future problems as well, because if you've got a customer that's always paid you spot on the nailer, and then suddenly it's a week late, and then it's 2 weeks late, and then they're wanting duplicate invoices, and then it's there's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And your tips and your advice have been extremely well received. But Paul, we're gonna close with a question to each of you. And Paul, if you could give one piece of advice to a business that is struggling with cash flow, what would it be? Just one piece. I know there's loads, but one.
Payment services, 100%. I'm sorry, I've said it several times today. Just have as many payment options as possible open to your clients.
Fabulous. Brilliant. And Louise, obviously you work with, similar to us, hundreds of clients. And with the advent of, or the development, not really the advent, but the development of cloud and primarily Xero, what's the biggest mindset shift that you have seen business owners have when it comes to controlling cash flow?
We live in a real-time environment now, and you need the answer now, not in an hour's time, not in 2 days' time. And by automating all of these systems, that's how you get that answer.
Yeah. Fabulous. I think that is that's key. I think that there's very much now I want it instantly, and tools like Xero will give us that instant insight. And then from an advisor perspective, we can log on, they can log on, and that collaborative way of working that is really key for success suddenly is really, really easy. So that's it for today. Thank you very much to Paul and Louise for sharing many practical insights. Some, I think, will resonate with lots of you. Some people may not have considered others, and go out and implement them. And I think that's what it's all about. What's the one cash flow tip you're going to go and implement from today's session? Hopefully, it's those pay now buttons, instant payment. Don't forget to drop any questions or topics that you'd love us to cover to our socials, and we'll be sure to catch you next time. Thanks very much for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to Giving You More Than Numbers. Subscribe for more business insights from Team CASS.